Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, 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 everyone. Can you drop a one in the chat if you can hear me, please? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Just want to start off with my gratitude, expressing how grateful I am for each and every one of you taking the time out of your day to be here, to expand your consciousness, to start off your morning or your afternoon with a great vibration with other people who want to learn and just, thrive in a community. So before I begin, drop in the chat, where are you tuning in from? What country, what city, where are you currently in, and where are you currently viewing this call? Personally, for me, I'm born and raised in Toronto, Canada, and I'm currently in Oshawa right now. Aurora, India, Belgium, Netherlands, India, Bowmanville, India, Estonia, Peterborough, Toronto. Beautiful, beautiful. Holy, Bangladesh, Slovenia. Awesome, awesome. Love it. Love it how we're all around the world. All right. Before we begin as well, drop in the chat 3 things that you're grateful for today. What are 3 things that you are grateful for today? I'm doing great, Manas. How are you? Personally, for me, I'm grateful for chakra bracelets. I'm grateful for books, and I'm grateful for water as always. Love, knowledge, family. What else? What else are you grateful for? You, Trade House family, grateful for this call, my mother, and the ability to progress, waking up, the sun, this opportunity, the call, my downlines, my crystals, life, skill, family, little one, coffee, having goals, love it. Place I live in, being able to see the beauty in the world, this opportunity. I love it. I love it. Beautiful. I love starting off the mornings with gratitude, grateful for the weekend, grateful for the weekend as always, grateful for tomorrow. All right. So for those who don't know me, my name is Kat. I'm a 20-year-old entrepreneur going on to 10 months being in the entrepreneurial world. And I've taken the challenge onto myself to expand my consciousness. So what does that really mean? Right? We acquire knowledge from school, we acquire knowledge from books, from different, areas of our life. But our consciousness, what is that really? Right? So I want you to quickly drop in the chat. What is your definition of consciousness? What does that mean to you? It could be one word, it could be a series of words, but what does that really mean to you? What does consciousness really mean to you? Your true awakened mind, being aware, higher being, becoming aware of your higher self. I love it. I love it. Beautiful. Awesome. Right? So the reason that I call this how you work, right? Because there's so much we know about ourselves. There's so much tangible things that we are already aware about ourselves. There's a lot of hidden stuff that a lot of us quite really don't really can comprehend or understand, right? You don't know what you don't know. So I've taken it upon myself to find out what I don't know so I can know, right? So expanding your consciousness, what does that really look like? So like you said, it's being aware, getting in tune with your higher self. But what does that even mean, right? We hear that all the time. Higher self, infinite knowledge, the awakened mind, the unawakened mind, right? And this is what we're going to dive in today, right? The first call, we talked about who you are, breaking down the barriers, shattering some of our beliefs about ourselves, right? We understand that, we know our age, we know our names, we know our hair colors, we know our occupations and stuff like that. But I ask you to put yourself in a room where none of that was existent in your mind. You already know that. But if you would take all that away and you were in a clear white room, empty white room, who would you be then? How would you describe yourself then? And then last call, right, we started talking about the 6 mental techniques, the mental intellectual factors and stuff, right? The imagination, intuition, reason, will, memory, and perception. And we broke them down step by step. And we started talking about, key points, key factors to remember and stuff like that. Today, right, I want to dive into understanding the awakened mind and the unawakened mind, or however you may call that, consciousness or unconsciousness, and really just breaking that down. And before I begin, I want to ask quickly, Who here knows about Bob Proctor? Who's ever heard of him? Who's ever studied him, right? Todd, awesome. Prem, beautiful, awesome, right? Watch him all the time. All right, love it. So I guess we can be a little more interactive here. I'm gonna ask a lot of questions. I want you to drop them in the chat, right? You have the ability to unmute yourself as well. So, you know, let's make this as interactive as possible. So really just understanding what the conscious and unconscious mind is. So the way that Bob Proctor puts it, right? We have our head and we have our body. And the way that he views it as is take your head and slice it in half. So where your nose is above, let's call that your conscious mind, your awakened mind. And then below your nose to your chin, let's call that your unconscious mind, your unawakened mind, okay? But where do we see the conscious and unconscious mind? Where do we place that? What do we call that? What was the last word that I said? Conscious and unconscious what? 4 letters. Mind. But how is the mind different than our brain? Because we tend to think that it's in the brain. So what makes it different though? What's different about it? Energy?
It's unconscious.
Yeah, unconscious. Okay.
It's connected to everything else.
Okay. Is it your mind in consciousness versus your brain in the physical thing? I love it. Not physically there. Awesome. Right? That's the biggest difference that there is, right? The brain is just a 3-pound, not just, it's pretty crazy. The brain is a 3-pound organ, right? And we call it like a control center, right? It's like your PC. It's like that remote, you know, when you go to the airport, they have that big tower that controls absolutely everything. It's that command tower. The mind is just not just as well. The mind is mental processes, it's thoughts, it's consciousness, it's unconsciousness. It's things that we can't physically touch. It's things that we can't explain. It's the part of us that we say that we can't explain. That's pretty much it. Can you explain a thought? Can you touch a thought? Yes or no? Because personally for me, I've never been able to touch a thought. Can you touch an emotion? No. Can you touch, you know, a question, like a question coming out of your brain? You feel it, but you can't really touch it. So the mind is the intangible stuff. It's what we throw it to when we can't really explain something. You can think it exactly, but you can't really touch it. Okay, so what we're really going to dive into is understanding the conscious mind versus the unconscious mind. Okay, and I think it's best explained through drawing. So I'm going to draw it the way that Bob Proctor does on the whiteboard. So I pardon for my drawing skills. I went to school for literature, not for drawing. So I'm going to do my absolute best. But let me clear this first, and let's get started. So the way that I personally look at it is the way that Bob Proctor taught it. Thank you. Okay, so let's view our brain like this. Let's say this is our brain, our head, okay? And then this is our body. I know none of you look like this. You are a lot more beautiful than my drawing, but just pardon me, okay? So, okay, so now let's, you know, break it down like I said. Let's view it the way that Bob Proctor talks about it. So let's draw a line down the middle, and let's label this. And I hope you're taking notes. I hope you're, you know, following like this, or, you know, you could take a screenshot afterwards. And let's call this the conscious. Okay, and we're gonna label that and put it right here. No. Okay, And then the bottom part. This is our unconscious. Now let's start diving into, let's start breaking this down. Let's start understanding this. So the consciousness. This is stuff that we're what? What did we start talking about? This is what we're aware of. So what are we specifically aware of? In the last call, we started talking about the 5 senses and then the 6 mental faculties. So where do we see, which one of those two would we see in the conscious mind if it's awakened, per se? 5 senses or the 6 mental faculties? What do we think? The 6 mental? Awesome, right? So this is where we're able to see the 6 mental and the 5 senses, right? So the thinking, feeling, hearing, touch, and smell would occur over here at the top, right? All throughout the brain, because this is our thinking brain. The conscious mind is where we possess our thoughts, where most of our thoughts come. And you hear this all the time. We have 60 to 80,000 thoughts rushing through our brain every single day. We're only conscious for about 5% of these thoughts, and those thoughts are very repetitive. But the other 60,000 to 80,000, however it may be for you, are very silently there, but we don't consciously think about it, right? We're aware of, we only choose to be aware of certain things, right? So the way that I see it is that our consciousness, right? We can accept absolutely anything that comes into here. This is our thinking brain, remember. So when an idea comes in, when a new thought comes in, right? When a concept comes in, we think about it. You may not think about it for an hour, you may not think about it for 20 minutes, and it may not be for a full day, but you think about it for a split second, or maybe more, depending on what is coming into your brain. And you either choose to accept it or to reject it, right? This is the thinking brain, right? And like Todd said, there's the 6 mental faculties: the imagination, the intuition, reason, will, and perception that comes into here, right? And we spoke about it last time, so I'm not going to break it down, and I do have the recording that I'll be posting up on YouTube once I get my page all set up, okay? But this is where the information that we perceive throughout the day it's impressed with repetition and emotion. And then after we perceive the information what we want, it gets pushed down into the unconscious. Okay, but let's dive into it a little bit more. Understanding repetition. Can you write those down on the screen? Definitely. I could definitely write them down. So the 6 mental faculties. Back.
This your motherfucking conscious niggas don't even do it. Don't start acting like a bitch because you forgot where you're going. You make choices that hurt you here.
Okay. Well, I kind of personally don't want to hear rap so early on a Sunday morning. Okay. So we have imagination, intuition, will, perception, memory. Okay, so these are the 6 mental faculties. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Reason. So these are the 6 mental faculties, right? Your conscious mind is the watchman of the gate. Yes. Emotion. Yes, exactly, right? Y'all are jumping the gun a little bit. So these are the 6 mental faculties. But let's start diving into the unconscious mind a little bit beforehand. How many of you have habits? Well, I think we all do. We all have habits, right? 95% of who we are based on habits. But how many of you have tried ever to break a habit? Drop your 3 in the chat. Because I personally done it several times. Okay, awesome. Now the next question. How was that? It was hard, right? Exactly. How was that for you? Other than it being hard, describe it a little bit more. What did it feel like? What were you thinking about? What was the cause and effect because of that? How was breaking that habit? How did that make you feel? What did that do to you?
For me, it's like a constant battle between choosing, whether to do a certain thing or not to.
Exactly. Challenging, changes your perception. Exactly. And when you're breaking a habit, it happens in the conscious mind because you're aware of it. Right. Well, we create a new habit. After 21 days, it goes into the unconscious. And then after 90 days, it becomes a lifestyle. It goes into the unconscious. We consciously do our habits over and over and over without thinking about it. So when you choose to do something other than your habit that you've been doing for how many days, how many years, how many months, whatever it may be, whatever that period of time may be, your conscious brain is the one that has that emotion, that challenging feeling. Your conscious mind is the one that has to overcome the battles, right? Different challenges, like this is something that they found with TV ads, right? So this is a little nugget here. When alcohol TV ads started coming out, a lot of people, because they unconsciously kept seeing TV ads, billboards, beers popping up in stores now that you're able to purchase it in grocery stores, not just in the LCBO or beer stores. People were unconsciously seeing this. And statistically, if you do your own research, you can see that a lot of people started picking up the habit of drinking. And you don't have to go into what drinking does and the effects on us and the family and all that stuff. But when a lot of people started to realize that what was going on with themselves, and they tried to break out of that habit, you can imagine the pain, you can imagine the challenge, you can imagine the battle people have to go through. And this is with any habit: drinking, smoking, whether it's being in toxic relationships, that's also a habit, whether it's doing something you're not supposed to be doing, eating, overeating, undereating, right? Being lazy, all this stuff becomes a habit, okay? And, a lot of the stuff that we see, our environment really programs our unconscious. And when we bring it to the conscious mind to change, something, or when we move something from the unconscious to the conscious, it becomes very hard to shift, to change, because, the unconscious suppresses things. We're only aware of a certain amount of stuff in the conscious mind. Okay, so we've identified that in the conscious mind, it's pretty much where our thoughts happen. This is where our thoughts happened. Okay, and let's start going into the subconscious. So this is where the thoughts happen. What happens in the subconscious then? What happens down there? This is our thoughts. Our thoughts create what? It starts with an F, emotion. Emotions or feelings. I'm going to put emotions. Okay? So our thoughts create an emotions, and then our emotions create an experience. So the emotional mind, right? This is how it works with feelings. So the limbic brain, the part of the limbic brain is what gives off the emotional stimulation, right? So this is where you will accept everything, right? Whatever your conscious mind accepts or rejects, you can choose what you want to think about. You can choose, what you keep in that part of the mind. But the subconscious mind cannot reject anything. We see everything around you. You're subconsciously taking it in, and you can't reject it. Okay, and this is how going back to the TV ad. This is how a lot of people subconsciously started picking up drinking. And if you've noticed, in Canada, marijuana has been legalized, and you can see, subconsciously, a lot of people have picked up the TV commercials, seeing new shops pop up with the weed logo, seeing a lot of people smoke, have a blunt in their hand. Subconsciously, they're picking it up. They can't, reject it. And subconsciously, they've started picking it up as well. Yes, peer pressure and all the other factors, we don't have to have a conversation about this, does influence people, but subconsciously our environment really does influence us to a whole other degree. And, do your own research. Don't just take whatever I'm saying and just, walk away with it and be like, she's correct. Do your own research, and you can really see that the legalization of marijuana And when, you know, a lot of, you know, when alcohol started being promoted on TV commercials and billboards and stuff and started being pushed into, you know, supermarkets, you can really see how a lot of people picked it up. Okay. Same thing with like pregnancies, teenage pregnancies. A lot of this stuff are planted in the subconscious mind, right? And it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy what happens down there, right? So like I said, you cannot reject anything, right? It's repressed. A lot of repetition and a lot of emotions, similar emotions, causes that to stay down there, okay? And this subconscious mind is what controls the vibration, the overall vibration of the body, right? There's only a certain amount of things we think about throughout the day. In our conscious mind, we think about our jobs, we think about our children or our families, we think about, you know, whatever, if you're an entrepreneur, what you have to cook that day, what's going on in the news, and probably some other issues that you have going on in your life. But those are what you consciously focus on. But there's so many other things going on in the world. And the unconscious mind is worrying about everything else or thinking about everything else that you're consciously not. And there's so much that's not going on. Remember how I said there's only 5% of the thoughts that you're consciously aware about? The other thoughts are down in the subconscious. Okay? So, and this overall controls the vibration. Have you ever, I know a lot of us have done this. I want you to drop a 5 in the chat. If you ever thought about something and then you kept thinking about it and you kept thinking about it and you kept thinking about it and kept thinking about it, and overall you just changed your whole day. This could be about an ex, this could be about your job, this could be about, you know, your ex-boss, it could be about your family member or something, right? We've all done this before. We thought about something and we kept thinking about it, we kept thinking about it, we kept thinking about it to the point where we just shifted our whole vibration, we shifted our whole emotion, we just changed our whole mood, okay? And, you know, but where does the feeling come from? Remember, the thought is up in the conscious mind. The thought is up here. The subconscious will controls the emotion, okay? And what the subconscious mind does actually too as well, it's a snap, exactly, y'all are just jumping the gun though. I was literally gonna talk about the past. All of our past memories, all of our past emotions reside in the subconscious mind, okay? And what we do, let's say that Prem and I are meeting for the first time. He gives me a handshake, you know, we lock eyes, we have a good introduction, and he gives me a good feeling, a good energy. Have you ever met somebody that reminds you of somebody else? Drop a 6 in the chat if you've ever done that. You've met someone and they remind you of somebody else. And it was, you know, it could be good, it could be bad, right? So let's say that I met Prem, we hit it off, you know, we become really good friends, and he reminds me of somebody else. Let's say he reminds me of Jason, okay? That feeling that Jason gave me is in the subconscious. And then the feeling that Prem gave me, you know, I have the thoughts about Prem, and then it comes in the subconscious, the aura, right? So our memories, we remember our memories off of 2 things, emotions and images. We think in images. And an image, whether that be conscious, right, because I'm physically seeing him, right, through the 5 senses, and the emotion that I remember subconsciously from Jason is what links the experience, right? Where can you find the recorded video? I'm going to be posting them on YouTube very, very, very soon, okay? So our memories are just based off 2 things, emotions and images, okay? And a lot of us, right, this is, you can debate me as much as you want, but the images that we have from a certain memory change. We add stuff into our memories. Remember the best feeling you had as a child. Now, what was that image? What was that image? You can remember the feeling. You will always remember the feeling. You can't change the feeling from a memory, but the image, we subconsciously change it. We shift it, right? So, not saying that our memories are false, but the emotions in the subconscious are the true facts for that memory. And when we experience new things, when we get an emotion, we link past memories, past emotions to this new experience. And in the subconscious, this is where we have a lot of our traumas, a lot of our anxieties, a lot of our fears, right? A lot of the negative stuff. This is where our pleasures are, those deep, dark pleasures and stuff, right? There's a whole lot of things that the subconscious, with Sigmund Freud and all that stuff, the id, ego, and the superego and all that stuff, right? There's so many other things that theorists and, neuroscientists have talked about in the subconscious. And, there's a lot of good things, and there's a lot of hidden things that reside down here. A lot of stuff we don't talk about. Dreams, nightmares. This is where they're born, in the subconscious mind. Drop a 7 in the chat if you've ever had a dream and you woke up and you're like, what the hell was that? You didn't know why you had the dream, whether it be a good or bad one, and you couldn't explain it. And I don't know about you, but I like to search up my dreams, or I like to call somebody to figure out what the meaning is, right? It was actually crazy. Last night I had the worst nightmare of my life. It was crazy, like horrifying. But I couldn't explain why I had the nightmare. I didn't see the correlation in my experience, in the world that I'm living in right now, right? I had a few dreams where I actually talked to Vargas about them. Exactly. There's something coming from the subconscious mind that is explaining, that comes out as images, right? Remember, when you're awakened, when you're in a state of awake right now, traveling through, the world and whatnot, you're consciously focusing on certain things. So all of a sudden a dream can't just come up and just throw itself, or like a message or whatnot. It happens when you're sleeping, okay? And this is where dreams and nightmares come in, and there's a meaning behind it. There's emotion that's being portrayed from it, right? Is there a way you don't dream? Not sure about that, okay? Full moon on Halloween, the REM sleep, right? If you don't hit the REM sleep, then you don't dream. But, every one of our dreams give off an emotion. When you wake up from a dream, how many of you don't remember that actual dream? I've woken up multiple times, and it was a really good dream too, and you don't remember, and you wish that you could write it down, but it gives off an energy, it gives off an emotion. That's what you need to link it to, because that emotion that's coming from the subconscious is relating to your awakened state, the state that you are in right now. Okay, so that's just a little extra thing that I wanted to throw in there. So now we understand that the conscious mind is all about thoughts. This is where the 6 mental faculties are, these. The subconscious mind is the emotion. So this is where, things that we suppress are. This is where, our habits reside and everything. So let's go back to the habits for a second. To break a habit, to break something, right? It goes up to the conscious mind. You have to physically change something. And that physical change causes an emotion, causes a hardship. It causes distress in the body, because you've conditioned your body to follow that state, to flow with that state. It's just normal for you, right? And something that I've learned, right, from my mentors is to subconsciously plant different things, different habits you want, to change that new habit. Because to break a habit is really hard, and I think we all can agree on that, right? But there's something you can also do. You can replace that habit by slowly dissolving it, okay? So let's say that I think we all can agree on this. I want you to drop a 8 in the chat if you have the habit of negatively talking to yourself. I think we all can drop an 8. We all negatively talk to ourselves. That may not be all the time. It may be just about one thing, right? But getting a lot better, love it, okay? So this is actually something that I've learned. We all, consciously talk negatively about ourselves. But what if I told you you can plant in the subconscious something that will override your negative thoughts? Would you listen? Would you do it? It's going to sound corny. It's going to sound really weird. But affirmations when you're sleeping. So when I first started my entrepreneurship journey, you should have seen the way that I spoke to myself. Really bad, really hurtful, in a really negative way. But once I quickly learned that I can override that habit subconsciously when I'm sleeping, I was like, hell yes. First of all, I don't have to do a lot of things because I'm going to be asleep. And plus, it's going to be planted in my subconscious without me even really knowing. How many of you fall asleep to different sounds, whether that be rain, whether that be music sometimes, or vibration, right? So actually just taking your phone and playing affirmations. Well, I highly suggest, though, that you record your voice saying different affirmations about yourself, like, I love me, right? I'm an abundant person. Business is booming. Family is growing. Whatever those affirmations are for yourself, record them with your voice. Or if that sounds a little weird for yourself to hear your own voice, just play off somebody else's voice. Find a voice that you love on YouTube and then just play that when you're sleeping. In a month, come back to me in a month and then tell me how you feel about yourself. It's going to be a whole lot different, right? So just doing things subconsciously, breaking habits subconsciously. Like I said, our environments influence a lot. So what if I told you, if you were to consciously just change your environment to the point where you don't care, you don't think about it anymore? Drop a 9 in the chat. Have you ever moved a piece of your furniture and then you walk into the room and then everything just feels so different? It just feels so weird. It's like a brand new world, in a brand new room. It's just, you move one thing, half an inch, and then you walk into the room and you just can't, you're just like, what the hell happened to my room? Or your parents have done it. Exactly. So your environment that you're in the most, whether that be your house, whether that be your office, right, your car, change it to the point where you're happy to be there. Everything in that space is happy. Consciously, for the first couple of days, you're going to be like, well, this is so different and whatnot. But afterwards, it's just going to feel normal to you. And then subconsciously, that space is going to feed good energy into your subconscious mind, right? Like I said, going back to the billboards, the TV ads, a lot of people, we were aware, first of all, when marijuana and alcohol started coming out. We saw them. And afterwards, it became normal. Same thing with COVID. We've heard it when it first came out. We're like, oh my God, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And now it's just a normal word. COVID is just part of our language now, right? Do you get where I'm going with this? So when you take something, it's going to feel weird, first of all, right? But when you just make it a normal part of you, it's going to go into the subconscious mind and overall shift it, right? See what you can do with your habit and what you can do to override it, because breaking a habit is really hard. But reprogramming the subconscious, like, I feel like Todd should be hosting this with me. But reprogramming your subconscious is really easy. Do things in your sleep. Listen to books in your sleep. A lot of us say that we don't have time. Okay, so listen to a book when you're sleeping. You're still going to be hearing it. Who says your ears are clogged when you're sleeping? I think they're still working pretty much, right? We hear fire alarms. We hear people when we're talking. So what makes you think that we can't listen to a book when we're sleeping? Right? We can hear other people snore. Why not listen to the voice of Joe Dispenza? Or why not listen to the voice of yourself speaking good things? Okay, so now we understand thoughts, now we understand emotions, but what happens down here? What happens into the body? Okay, like I said, when you have a thought, you create an emotion, and that emotion ultimately creates what? An experience in the body. So the body here is what I like to call actions. This is where our actions get done. It doesn't matter how much you do want to do and how much you don't want to do, but if you have the conscious thought to do something and the enough willpower to do it, your body will do it. So this is the doing part of this whole concept. Okay, and the vibration of your thought is what puts out the vibration in your body. Okay, and this is what controls the action and the behavior part of your personality. So going back to the idea, remember when you had that repetitive thought of something bad and all of a sudden you changed your whole body, your whole energy in your body changed? This is the exact same thing that's going to happen. So when you have a good thought, imagine having one good thought. What's one of your goals? What is one of your goals? Let's say going to the moon. I'm 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 going to the moon. Project that energy, that feeling. Eventually, it's going to create the experience in the body of happiness, of going to the moon. That feeling you're going to get when you're going to the moon. Whatever your goal is, that's what it should be. Or even going back to habits. Whatever that habit is, the new habit that you want to form, do the exact same thing. The feeling that the habit will give you, create that vibration, create that thought, and eventually become your experience. What's a habit that you want to change? Drop it in the chat. What's a habit that you want to change about yourself? Or are you currently changing? Making good choices, procrastination, reading. Okay, let's take reading, because I think a lot of us don't like reading. Okay, let's take reading. Say you absolutely hate reading. You won't ever pick up a book. Okay, telling yourself that I love reading. I'm a good reader. Books are my friends. I learn so much from books. I have a book with me all the time. Saying things like that and focusing on the good things of reading instead of saying, I have to read today. Books are boring. I don't learn anything from books. Looking for the goodness out of reading will eventually make you feel good. And that good feeling will go down into your body. And when you have a good feeling in the body, you're more likely to do it. So instead of thinking reading is hard, there's so many pages I have to do, there's so many words, I'm not a good reader, switch it around. Whatever you don't think, whatever the negative part is, flip it around and look for the good part. I'm a good reader. I learned so much. I have an abundance of books. My library collection makes me happy. Books make me happy. And you're going to start thinking, the first few times, it's going to be, you're not going to have that feeling. But when you say it and you say it and you say it, eventually a vibration is going to come out, it's going to go to the body, and you're more likely going to do it. Okay? Overthinking. That's a really good one. Overthinking. A lot of us, when we overthink, we're aware of it, but then we don't actually stop it. Then we start thinking that we're overthinking. Right? I see you smiling, Prem, so I know you can relate to me. I do the exact same thing. Overthinking. You have one thought, and then you just start dwelling on the thought, and then now you're like, God damn it, now I'm just dwelling on this thought that I just had before, now that I'm overthinking. And then you start thinking that I'm overthinking. And then you just do that over and over, and then you just put yourself in a bad state. Drifting, right? But what I did was, when I would catch myself, right, I would get cue cards. The thing that really works for me is having it visually. I would get cue cards, and I would have my affirmations there. I'm not overthinking. I'm just having repetitive thoughts. I'm just breaking down thoughts. Then I would ask myself, is this thought worth it? No. And then I would switch. Then I would tell myself, I think good things. I think things that will make me grow. I think things that are beneficial to me. My thoughts are helpful. My thoughts are good. My thoughts create good emotions. My thoughts create good emotions that create good actions. My thoughts are wonderful. Because when you think that you're overthinking, then you start thinking that your thoughts are bad. And then you start thinking that when you have bad thoughts, that you're a bad person. And then you just keep overthinking even more. Do you get what I'm saying? So overthinking is not bad. But overthinking, you can switch that around. Overthink about good things. Okay, so that's just something that I personally use to break some habits that I have. To switch my subconscious, reprogram your subconscious. So first of all is just changing the way that we think and changing our environment. That's the biggest thing. Because remember, our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotions create our actions, that experience in the body. So everything that we see in front of us, everything that we perceive, comes from the conscious mind first. And remember, our subconscious mind is just emotions. It's just like a bed, a pool of emotions that we've had in the past. So every time you have a new experience, a new stimulation, an emotion is pulled from the subconscious mind to link it. Right? Remember when you were first truly happy? What's the best experience of you being happy? You link something good that's happening to you right now with that emotion, right? You link something good happening to you right now with that emotion. Have you ever had something so bad happen to you? You're like, oh my God, this reminds me of this. This reminds me of when. It reminds me of that time because you're linking that emotion to this. And then the image of that past will pop up. So we live in stimulations, we live in experiences, and we live in thoughts. And then all the other stuff follows. So this is how I view us. This is how I view our mind. This is how I view our body, right? And I highly recommend you check out Bob Proctor to understand more about this and understand the power of repetition, understand the power of habits, understand the power of our minds specifically, okay? With that being said, I'm gonna start wrapping it up. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them below and I can quickly answer them. But I just want to start off by, end off by expressing my gratitude for each and every one of you. I hope you take a screenshot of this or you drew it down. But I want to express my gratitude for each and every one of you taking the time out of your Sunday to be here, to join me, to expand your consciousness and grow. Like I said, The Power of the Subconscious, yes, exactly, beautiful. Love that book, right? Like I said, I'm going to be posting these recordings up on YouTube very, very soon. But with that being said, I'll see you next Sunday. Make sure you bring some families, some friends. This is open to anyone. This is open to everyone. I haven't created the channel yet, Nathan. Not yet. Not yet. There's some other things I have to do first to make sure it looks good. Yeah, I can't half-ass this. All right. Love each and every one of you. Keep thriving, family.
Appreciate you, Kat.
Thank you.